Welcome back, everybody, to Two Guys and a Stack of Comics. My name is Reed. Along with me is Mike. Mike, you are the comic book historian of the two of us, and you recently had an opportunity to go to San Diego Comic-Con. You participated in a panel yourself, which we'll have a video talking about that as well. But a big one for you was you got an opportunity to talk to some folks from EC Comics, a publisher with a very rich history, complicated history, and they're doing some great things today. So today, spotlight's on you, my friend. I'm going to let you walk us through what you know about EC's past, a publisher that maybe not as many people know about, and what you were able to kind of ascertain about what they are doing today. So, with that said, I'll kick it to you, sir. Walk us through a little bit of EC Comics if you can.
Oh my gosh. So it's so cool. At San Diego, I got to go to two EC panels and it was amazing. Um, I think the first one, I'm trying to remember which one I went to first. I think the first one I went to was this one, which was like a love letter to Angelo Torres, the last surviving artist of EC Comics. And you can see a great picture of him there. He is amazing. And the EC fan club, these guys are incredible. I got to meet them all. I went to dinner with them. Just an incredible bunch of EC enthusiasts. Um, this is a love letter to Angelo. One of the guys, I got them all to sign it here. All the guys, the EC fan club, they put this book together. They commissioned Mr. Torres to recreate or create covers uh, that maybe he didn't get to do during his tenure in the 1950s with EC, or covers that he wished he had done, and they let him just kind of run free. And so this whole book is just cover after cover. They're amazing. Mr. Torres is in his 90s now, but just look at that art. He has not lost a single beat. And this is a collection of covers that the EC Fan Club commissioned of him over a period of about 5, 6, 7 years. I mean, just look at that detail. Absolute master of the craft. Look at this weird science cover. So this panel was all about the creation of this book that they put out this year. The Burns brothers, Tommy and Josh, they signed it for me. Everybody else that was there signed it for me. And I just love it. I'm cherishing this as one of my, favorites. So they put it out in magazine format. It's really awesome. EC has a troubled history for those of you that don't know, but it's so awesome that they're back. And I talked a little bit in our last video about some of the stuff that they started last year publishing. Oni Press has been publishing new EC type material in the modern, you know, format. But EC Comics itself started back in the 40s, and originally they were called educational comics. And it was Max Gaines' brainchild to kind of hedge his bets and try and put out something. There was a lot of backlash, even in the 40s, that comics were not good for kids. The print was too small. The subject matter was not wholesome enough. So Max Gaines decided to put out educational comics. He called it EC Comics, Educational Comics. And it was Bible stories and other things like that, and true history done in comic book format. And that went on for a few years. Then he died, and Max Gaines was one of the founders of National or DC Comics, but he started this other side company and kind of drifted out of National, probably in the mid 40s, I want to say. I may be wrong on that. But anyway, he died in a strange boating accident in 1948. And when he passed on, the comic book company was all the family had. And his son, Bill Gaines, was in his early 20s. He was going to school, he was going to college to be a chemist. And his mother said, you have to take over the family business. We have no money, we have no income. And so Bill reluctantly took over educational comics. And he said, well, if he's a young maverick guy and he's not getting to do what he wanted to do. He wanted to be a chemist. Um, he had a little bit of an angst, I want to say, probably. And his pulse for satire and whatever you want to call it, running against the social grain was deep. He had all of that ingrained in him. And when he took over the comics, he goes, if I got to do comics, I want to do comics the way I want to do comics. And he said, we're going to change the name from educational. We're going to call it entertaining. And I'm going to make the best comics I can, doing stuff that I want to do. And he partnered with an amazing group of talented artists and writers, Al Feldstein, Angelo Torres, um, uh, Wally Wood, everybody that was anybody. He got the best talent that he could around him, and they started doing crime, horror, science fiction, and they were wildly successful in the beginning of the 1950s. This is the kind of material that the older readership, people that had started reading comics in 1940, they're now in their early 20s. They loved this stuff. They ate it up. They were ready for something more mature, more than the smash pow bang, good versus evil. They wanted to delve into science fiction. They wanted to see something gross and horror related, mystery, suspense. Piracy was one of them. And we just finished, doing Watchmen, and there's that pirate comic, and they famously did a pirate comic. But these were all done with a more mature theme. They were gory, they were gross. They had these little, like Stan Lee used to call them, "Oh Henry" shock endings. And they took on all kinds of stories that were more adult themed, challenging social norms, examining, psychology and all kinds of things. And they were lauded. Probably most people would consider that they were the best comics ever made, for their time period and their artistic and writing prowess. They really put the pedal to the metal. Unfortunately, this mature content, there's no regulating it. Um, these books were right on the shelf next to Superman and Little Lulu, and these horrible, gruesome comics like Frontline Combat about real stuff, like veterans of World War II were writing true life war stories in there, and all the psychological trauma that goes with it and the gore. It was kind of like if you had a Platoon and you put it, on the same billing, a double feature with a Disney movie, and that contrast was definitely noticed by some of the more conservative groups in the country, and a prominent psychologist who and a politician who really wanted a cause to boost his campaign, and all that came together in 1955, and they ran EC out of business. They started, the Comics Code Authority, which was a censorship body for comic books. They had churches and schools getting together all across the country and just burning comic books by the millions. These bonfires, and everybody was rallied up like comics are bad, comics are bad. And there's newspaper articles from all across that time period where, be sure and bring all your comics, kids, to, the church on Sunday, and we'll have a big bonfire after. And all these comics, and it didn't matter if it wasn't just EC, it was Superman. Everything apparently was bad for kids. All these comics, it was ruining our kids' minds. It was causing them to be delinquent, a lot of the same things that we hear about video games today. Of course, there were no video games back then, but there was a cause, and there was comic books, and comic books took the worst end of it, I'm afraid. And EC was the publisher that took the brunt of everything. Um, by 1956, yeah, by 1956, they were out of business completely. But there is a silver lining to the story. Um, Bill Gaines, seeing the decline of his regular line of comic books, decided to take his comic book Mad magazine that had about 20, or they were about 23 issues into Mad Comics. They were in the comic book format back then, and he turned it into a magazine. And he brought a lot of his crew over to work on the magazine. And Mad Magazine, was in publication up until the 20 teens. So that even outlasted Bill, who passed away, several years before that. But yeah, so Mad Magazine continued. It was the last living legacy of what was, by many, the considered the best line of comic books that were ever published. But
It's crazy.
the second EC panel that I went to was from Oni Press with this hot new stuff that they came back last year and are trying to publish comic books, because now we live in a modern an adult world where comic books are bought by adults. And so this is okay, even though it's for mature audiences, which is what EC really was too. They were somewhere in between, trying to skirt the line, but they started their own sci-fi line again. This is the collected works for the first year of Cruel Universe, the sci-fi line, and I got it signed and a little sketch there by the artist. This is volume one of Epitaphs from the Abyss, their horror line that they're doing now, which is also awesome. These are all modernized, but they're anthologies like the original EC was. They're trying to be gross. Like, this is the type of subject matter that would be on an EC comic in the 1950s. That's
Mhm.
right in line. And you can see, like, this would be shocking in the 50s, right?
For sure.
There was a famous cover by Johnny Craig where it depicts a man holding a woman's head and a bloody axe. That's the that one was tough for the 50s, right? You couldn't, it didn't pass muster. But these new ones are coming out. Catacomb of Torment. I don't know if you can see that there.
Mm.
And this one, Blood Type, I got the sketch cover because I was going to go back and the artist was going to sketch and sign it for me, but Comic-Con was crazy. I didn't quite get there. So I don't think this one has. No, sometimes they put the blank cover and they put the real cover in it, but the front cover is amazing. And when I went to the panel, everybody that was at the panel got a uh, a cover, a sheet of the covers from this comic, and I can pull it out, but I got it rolled up in a tube. But it's like the sheet of printed cover paper with, four covers this way and four covers that way. But these are two new exciting ones that are hitting the stands this month. And I'm really happy that EC is back. I really feel like they probably could have come back in the 90s and been bustling all this time. But, things happen for a reason. But they're out today now. And I will tell you, the creators that were on that panel are so excited. And they do share the respect for the original material from the 1950s. Everybody in the comic book world knows that EC kind of got a raw deal. If they had separate newsstands, they probably would have survived. If they had like the adult shelf up here and then the kids shelf down, something like that. But it just wasn't the right time. The fortunate thing that history has proven out is that although the material was not right for the time, when it did come out, it allowed the great talents that worked on EC to explore the medium and to take it in new areas. There are those that would argue that after the Comics Code Authority set up censorship and things kind of went the way they did into the 1960s, there are those that argue that the creativity was stymied. And you can kind of tell that from the great art and stories that Feldstein and Gaines and others were telling at that time period. Who knows how far the medium could have advanced had we allowed that talent to flourish in the 50s? We don't know because they went out of business. And we'll never know. But at any rate, it did spotlight some amazing, talented artists and writers who went on to do other things in comics and become legends in their own right. But everybody points back to those 1950s EC comics, and boy, those are expensive.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to have a publisher that has that amount of history and that type of impact. And you're probably your average fan is not really aware of the legacy that I know. Prior to you and me being friends, I didn't know much about um, EC overall. Last question to kind of close it out. I mean, you attended the panel, you got to talk to these. I know you've read and looked at a few of these. Do you feel like this reboot of EC is something that will have legs? Do you think it's something you think will work for the long term, or do you feel like maybe could go by the wayside? Like, what's your general thought on it, on the future of it?
Um, the publisher is all in on this line. They have hired top-notch talent. The EC fans, although they'll never be perfectly happy, because what do they always say? The original was always the best, right? Everyone says
Yep.
that, right? And it's true. I do think that it is sold well. It is I believe it's their biggest seller is the EC line. They do other things like I saw a couple of things I was like, oh, you guys do that too? There are other couple of big sellers, but they're all in on this EC line. And the sales are good. So I do feel, and they're even taking it up a notch. Some of these stories coming out this year are even better, in my opinion, than last year. I think last year, the first year, they were kind of feeling their way, and I think they've honed their craft and they're ready to zero in. And if everything comes together this year and they produce another year of good sales, I think it could build. I really do.
Yeah. Hopefully, always rooting for success for these different companies, especially ones that seem to want to honor the past. So glad you were able to take us on that walk of past of EC and a little bit about what's going on. For you guys in the comments down below, let us know. Did you guys know much of this about EC? If you do, if you're an old school EC fan or a new fan, let us know what your take on this is. As always, folks, thank you guys so much for watching. God bless you. We'll catch you in our next video.
Thanks, everybody.